Here we go.
All right, welcome back to a very special episode of Dr. J Radio Live. Of course, I'm your host, Dr. J, broadcasting from the City of Angels, or City of Demons, the City of Dead, depending upon what you want to call it. I'm always welcome to suggestions. Let me give a quick shout out to someone who's in the chat already. Blake and Brent Cousins of Third Phase of Moon, one of the world's largest UFO YouTube channel, and I want you all to be paying close attention to what they are going to be doing or premiering on October 25th. Now let's talk about today's guest. He is a host, a paranormal host, and he's got a lot of people and both Facebook, I believe Facebook is his main medium. And I'll let him explain that. And that is the one and only Mr. Bradley Powers. Bradley, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Now, I mentioned to you this a moment ago. Most people usually have something happen to them. See a ghost or a UFO, something that gets them on the path to wanting to be in the truth movement. What happened to you, or did you have any experiences?
I've had many experiences. Thank you for having me on your show, by the way.
Of course.
I've had many experiences, and it all began when I was 9 years old. And at age of 9 years old, I knew nothing. I was quite a naive child, and I was in my bedroom. It was the day before we was moving to a new house, and I remember my mind saying, "Look at the wall." And I was thinking. I looked at the wall. I saw nothing, and then I looked out the window, and I just saw what I saw. The area. Anyway, so I pulled the curtain back, and then I looked at the wall, and I saw a black hand on the wall, a reflection of a black hand on the wall. So I looked at the window to see if there was a reflection of the black hand on the window, and there wasn't. So there was nothing there. Then I looked back at the wall, and I saw that same reflection of the black hand just there. And that's what began for me when I started to recognise that everything in life is not as it seems. And that was my reflection of the black hand, aged 9 years old. Anyway, for
Black hand, real quick. Do you mean like something that would be like a ghost, something that would not have a reflection in a mirror, sort of?
yes, yes, absolutely. It was a black hand on the wall. I had to pull the curtains back and look at the reflection of the window on the wall, and I saw the black hands, but it didn't move. It was just there, not moving at all. All it was a hand, and it was reminding me of my granddad passed away earlier, and my uncle sat in my granddad's chair. And when my uncle sat in my granddad's chair, a cold hand touched him on the shoulder, and he shrieked and jumped out the chair, and he never sat in that chair again. And the hand, he said, was ice cold. But my granddad used to do a lot of things, like when he passed away, after his death, he used to turn the gas fire down low. He didn't like it up high. And the dog used to bark in the hallway for no reason at all. My granddad definitely came back. He returned to this side of life after his passing.
Ice cold is one of the biggest descriptions of ghosts. People, for instance, are walking and then they feel a cold breeze as they're walking, as if something undead, a ghost, is walking past them or through them.
Yes.
So
That,
what happened from there? That was nine,
well,
age 9.
at age 12, I remember I just woke up. I just seem to wake up and know when they're there. I woke up at age 12, and to my astonishment, there was a Druid priest sitting on my bed with his arms folded. You couldn't see his hands, and he was performing a sermon, and a sermon on my behalf. And I remember looking at the Druid priest, who was in white, pure white, glowing a little bit. And I looked at his the robe that he was wearing, and the white robe, and I could see the woven material of the cloth. I couldn't see through him. And that's when I realized that he wasn't a manifestation, he was a materialization. it's possible. I know this is unbelievable to take in. It's possible spirits can cross over into this life in the flesh. And he was sitting there in a materialization form, sitting there. I looked at the weave of the cloth that he was wearing, and I couldn't see through it. I could see the weave. I could see him, but I couldn't see through him. He was solid as matter, and he was sitting on my bed performing a sermon.
He
And
was
I remember thinking to
priest.
myself, what does your face look like, I wonder? And he telepathically, he showed me the image of a skull. So his face was a skull. He had been raised from the dead to come to me to perform a sermon at age 12 and was sitting on my bed doing such a service.
Before he passed away, was he a priest? Was that his profession?
Yeah. He was a druid priest, I believe. A druid priest. Absolutely. And that was my first encounter with the druids at age 12.
Now, so age 9, you saw the hand. Age 12, he's performing a sermon. Do you recall what the sermon was about? I mean, I'm assuming because it's to protect you.
Exactly, that's exactly right, Dr. J. That's exactly what it was. It was a protection sermon that he was performing, blessing me for my future path, my journey through the garden of life. He was protecting me. It was a blessing, and it was an honor as well.
I've always heard from people who have telepathic communications, it's kind of like once you open that gateway, you're able to have more telepathic communications with other beings. Did that ever happen to you?
Yes, yeah, with gateways, I perform. I'm a necromancer. I perform rituals often, and I have to open portholes, 4 of them, and close them afterwards. I have to close them properly as well. If I leave one open, spirits can still travel through, or anything can travel through. I'll give you an example. Alistair Crowley, he opened a portal and he didn't close it properly, and he left a gash in the cosmos. And what happened was extraterrestrials came through. This was in 1943. In 1945, we had the Roswell incident.
You know, it's ironic you mentioned the opening a portal and extraterrestrials came through because every time I speak to someone who's involved with ghost hunting, someone who really doesn't talk much or research much about UFOs or ETs, that I have 2 questions always. One, I always say, have you ever seen a ghost of an extraterrestrial? And the second is, of course, have you ever had a ghost speaking of a dead language? Now, you've already opened a portal here where an extraterrestrial came, so that shows that there's another dimension.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's many dimensions. In fact, they're all around us. Even it's like other dimensions are living in this realm, doing what they do, doing their own things in life, and they're all around us. They can see us, but we can't see them because we are on the 3-dimensional view, and they are 5th dimension. And we can't see 5th dimension unless we're psychic, a shaman, a psychic medium. Unless we have been blessed with a gift, we can't see the 5th dimension.
Were you an only child, or was your whole family involved in this? Because obviously you said it was your grandfather, right? Well,
Yes.
yeah. So I'm assuming you come from a long line of people in the religious sector or in the I don't want to say psychic because that limits it, but at least in the open-mindedness.
Yes, my mother was a spiritualist, and my nan was a spiritualist, and so was my father, and they used to perform seances quite often.
Did they ever use a Ouija board?
Absolutely. It's the same as I have myself. They did use a Ouija board, yeah. But they also didn't use a Ouija board. They performed seances without a Ouija board.
Can you walk us through what you would do or they would do when they didn't use a Ouija board to conduct a séance?
They would burn incense
Hmm.
and to lighten the atmosphere, making it easier for spirits to travel. And then They would ask, "Is there anybody there?" and ask questions. And sometimes the spirit would come through. Sometimes the spirit may not come through. Spirit can come through in fault. Without actually manifesting, a spirit may manifest, or it could come through in fault into your mind and communicate with you that way.
Telepathically, essentially.
Yes, telepathically, yeah, or telefault.
So this actually goes to my theory and something we also mentioned, that once you open that gateway, it's there. You're always going to be in communication. It may not be every day, but you're always going to have a more open mind, or a mind that connects more so than other people who don't.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to be open-minded to the concept of all things. You have to be open-minded, really. It has happened to people who are not open-minded, and they have had a shock when they have had spirits communicate with them. But you have to be open-minded. When spirits first started communicating with me through telepathy, I just accepted it like it's natural for me for some reason. I am natural at what I do, and I didn't realise how natural I was. There was no fear. I did not fear.
So after age 12, what was the next major thing? Obviously, you had your
Well,
parents involved in this, and you have a long lineage of this. What else happened in your life from that point on?
I woke up again at age 12. I woken up and I found a shade kneeling beside my bed. A shade. Shades are normally summons to appear. And I believe this shade was sent to me, and it was kneeling beside my bed like I was a prince or a king, and the shade was kneeling beside my bed. A shade is like a shadow, only jet black. I mean, it was night time, and it was early in the hours of the morning. It was dark, and yet I could see this shade perfectly clear. I couldn't see through the shade, just black matter. That's what I saw. I saw the shade kneeling beside my bed, like I was a prince or a king, but I didn't move when I see the shade. I just laid there and did not move, and I was astonished at what I saw. I'd never seen a shade in my life. Shades, wizards and sorcerers normally conjure up a shade from the dead. And shade, there's two kinds of shades. Ones that live permanently, and there's another kind of shade that performs a task. And when the shade has finished performing that task, the shade will disintegrate into the atmosphere.
Now, you're also a mystic as well as, you mentioned, a necromancer. What's the difference between the two?
I say I'm a mystic because it's easier. Because I mean, am I a psychic? Am I a psychic medium? Am I a shaman? Do you know what? I'm so many things. It's easier just to call me a mystic, really, because what I've experienced is a variety of things all across the board. So by saying I'm a mystic, is much easier. Am I a shaman? Yes, I communicate with spirits. I have healing powers. I have right eye hands. My ex-wife, she used to have sciatica and was in so much pain. But when she laid on the bed and I rubbed my hands over her back, the pain would remove. The pain would go away because I have right eye hands. I am a healer.
Now, you have a huge presence when talking about this with people, because you have 170,000 people, members in the groups that you manage, or
Absolutely.
admin.
Yes. Yes, I am admin to 170,000 members over three groups, three paranormal conspiracy theory groups. And we've got one's a little bit of a jungle, one's quite smooth running, and the other one's very mellow. And yes, I have 170,000 members are mainly alien conspiracy theorists, and they are there to learn, to discover, and I help them do that by posing questions for them to answer. I cause my members to think outside of the box.
With regards to aliens slash ETs, what types or different kinds of aliens have you encountered or know of?
I have encountered one extraterrestrial myself, which I'll get to later. There are allegedly over 72 different species of extraterrestrials and aliens that are known to man. The difference between an alien and an extraterrestrial is aliens are spiritual entities that exist. They are beings that exist, but they've never been to Earth. They are aliens. Extraterrestrials are those that actually inhabit Earth, frequent Earth, visit Earth quite frequently. That's the difference between an alien and an extraterrestrial. The Russians have actually written a book describing these 72 different species of alien. They wrote a book because the Russians have actually met them all, and they know the reasons why they exist, what their purpose in life is. They've illustrated it quite well, describing the malevolent and the benevolent different species of aliens and extraterrestrials. The Russians have done this, and they wrote a book about it, which is actually available online on Amazon or in the shops.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the Russians. There is this Russian female cosmonaut. Her name I'm drawing a blank, but she not only was one of the first people in space and was definitely one of the first females in space, highly decorated, and she is a huge proponent that we have been visited.
Yes, well, we have been visited many times. In fact, I'd even go further than that by saying they are here. Aliens, extraterrestrials are here already. They're in the stars, the Orion constellation, the stars. They're on the moon. They're below the oceans, seabeds, below that, and they are below the Earth's surface. They are here already. They live below the surface of the Earth.
You know, I'm really glad you mentioned the fact that they are here. Some people even go as far as walking amongst us. Others even go as far as saying as that we, Homo sapiens, do not come from here. And they lay out a bunch of reasons. One of them being our circadian rhythm does not match that of Earth's. What do you think of that hypothesis? Or is it even not a hypothesis, but a fact?
Well, they're here, and and they are interbreeding with humans as well. So therefore, there are hybrids, and in fact, they are walking the earth. You could actually be next to one and not even know the hybrid. You would not even know that. In fact, they're called EBEs. Extra biological entities. That's what they're called. And well, Cassaday Lightwing is an example, but he is an EBE. But they like Cassaday Lightwing as an example. Is there are EBEs hybrids walking this planet that are extraterrestrial DNA. They hold extraterrestrial DNA, and they are walking the planet, and you would not know if you was near them.
That's your co-host, right? Cass. I always say Cass as short. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. He's been in the chat a couple times on this show, and we are doing a special one because it's Sunday, and I figured, you know what? People do need to hear the 7 days a week because things are happening 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Yes, they are.
How did you come in contact with him? How did you guys cross paths?
Well, I am admin of three large groups, and I offered him the role as a moderator because I actually saw him as a starseed, but I've actually realised now that he's an EBE, which is slightly different from a starseed. But he was a moderator, but he was so busy he didn't have time to moderate, so I had to let him go. However, I was performing my own interviews, and he was doing his own shows, and we just clicked. We did a couple of shows together, and we thought, hey, we've got something going here. We're like a double act, and it began from there. And since then, we've recorded many shows together, interviewing guests. It's called the Bradley Powers Esoteric Hours, and I interview alien contactees, alien abductees, as well as shamans, Freemasons, and we talk about life today and conspiracy theories and the truth, and we share words of wisdom.
And you know, you do mesh together very well. I was honored to be on your program with both of you, and you do literally. It's like it's almost as if you start a sentence, and it's like he could almost read your mind and finish it. You guys are on such the same path when you're speaking about the topics you are.
Thank you. Yes, he is intergalactic. He can tell you anything about intergalactic welfare. And me, I am spiritualist and earthbound. I can tell you about earth-related matters, spiritual and physical. And like I say, he is intergalactic. He can tell you about the Arcturians and Alpha Draconians and people like that. Although I'm quite prone to Alpha Draconians, I like talking about them as well. But yeah, we bounce off each other.
Earlier, you mentioned that the Russians wrote a book and they detailed the benevolent beings versus the malevolent beings. Off the top of your head, can you list off some of the types?
Yeah, Alpha Draconians. Now you must bear in mind there's good and bad in all, just like there is human beings, good and bad in all. However, a majority of the Alpha Draconians are malevolent. They're carnivorous and they actually feed off humankind. They actually eat us. They see us as a food source and they despise the human race. That's a majority of them. However, not all Alpha Draconians are bad. And then you've got the Arcturians that they are there to actually help us, guide us, and offer us assistance. And they are hoping for us to ascend, to raise the vibration of the planet.
Now, earlier, or about you, the different beings that you communicate with. Can you tell us the difference between uh, deities, jinns, gods, goddesses, fae, creatures? You mentioned shades, incubus, of course, and demon. Is it demons? Of course, demons, and of course,
Yeah.
not forgetting alien angels.
No, we can't forget angels. I never knew angels were real until I actually saw one. Going back to my stroll through life, I remember waking up and discovering a demonic entity behind the door of my bedroom, and it kept opening and closing the door all night. This went on for ages, and I don't know why I did this, but I had to sit up and look. So I sat up and looked, and I could see all I could see was a massive black behind the door, so I didn't actually see. It could have been a shade. It might have been. It might not have been. But I couldn't actually make out what it was. There was a demonic entity behind the door, opening and closing the door. I also remember waking up and finding an Ilfrit or a Shaitan on the landing, standing there, and that too was in solid form. You couldn't see through it. When you say ghost, you think of translucent figure that
That's
you could
right.
actually see through. But this was just standing there. This Shaitan was standing there. It was an Ilfrit or a Shaitan standing on the landing, and I couldn't even see through it. So I've seen many. I've been attacked by many demons as well.
Because
Uh,
of your powers, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the spirits have told me that I'm an element of the spirit of light, and I don't quite understand what that is, but that's what I am. And yeah, I have the most amazing powers that I've been blessed with, amazing. And they know this. The demons that attack me know I have these amazing powers, and when they attack me, they don't. They give it 90%. They don't go all the way because if they do, they might shock me and upset me, and then I might just lose it and use my amazing powers, my ultimate powers against them, and they wouldn't want that because that means ultimate death.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned earlier you brought up being people being shocked when they see certain things. And I think that has a lot to do with what people understand and believe and are open-minded to versus people who are not. Of course they're going to be shocked if they see something that's not supposed to be there if they're always told otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. I remember another incident. My granddad, when he died, he came back a lot. And I remember laying in bed asleep, and my granddad came into my bedroom, and he brought the dog with him as well. And I remember feeling the presence of my granddad was quite disturbing. I did feel uneasy knowing the presence of my granddad was in my room because he was a stern man, stern. He was like over 6 foot tall, well built, and he was very stern. And I remember feeling uncomfortable that he was there. However, the following morning, I went and looked under the dressing table, which was quite dusty, and I saw a footprint of the dog that he brought with him, which actually validated that I wasn't imagining things.
Now, let me ask you this. I've always thought that a painting of an angel with wings is not that they're showing that they have wings literally, but more so that it's the artist's representation that they have the ability to fly, whether through technology. I mean, if you saw something flying in a craft 2,000 years ago and you had nothing to associate it with, or even longer than 2,000 years ago, say 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, then, and you can't write, there's a lot of illiteracy in those years. I would think that the reason why artists painted them with wings is a representation to show that these beings had the ability to fly, whether it be through a saucer, a triangle, or whatever it be. Some even talk about these certain beings that actually float. Instead of walking, they're like floating 3 to 5 feet above. What do you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Not all angels have wings, yet they can still get around. They can still float about, but not all angels have wings. Yeah, I didn't realise that myself until I see one. Yeah, not all angels have wings.
Real quick before here we go. This is from Ward Alien Video. He wants to know if you follow Crowley, Aleister Crowley.
I am aware of him, familiar with his work, and he is of the occult, and I am tuned into the occult myself. So yes, I do follow his work, but I'm not well averse to him. However, I find he might have been a beast of a man. However, I find that he is fascinating.
I think so too, and I think that there's a lot of misconception about him of being this evil guy. I think part of the thing is that he's more enlightened. He was more open-minded in conducting these seances or conducting rituals. What do you say
Yes,
about that?
yeah, that's what he did. He practiced rituals, opened portals and closed portals, and he actually connected with an extraterrestrial who actually offered him guidance in all varieties of fields, and and yes, and he performed magic as well because magic is real.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I think the people who denied, especially in that era, very, 1 plus 1 equals 2, in that sort of mindset, where they definitely, if you talked about ghosts, you were thrown in the loony bin. Or if you talked about being an abductee, say, around the era of Roswell or even after that, people definitely thought some you had some screws loose. Things have so drastically changed that I think if Aleister Crowley was around now, and because I've read his books, not all of them because he's got lots of reading to do, but I've read his
Yes,
books. I've also interviewed Lon Milo Duquette, who is the current, I don't know the proper title, but the current head of the OTO, which was actually started by Aleister Crowley and then Jack Parsons and then went on and so forth. But I do think if he was around today, people would look at him as more of a guru. Not to say, hey, everyone go out and buy Aleister Crowley books and join the OTO or whatever it be, but it's about having an open mind. What do you say about that?
well, didn't he? He was with the house, the House of the Golden Dawn, the Order of the
That's what he
Golden Dawn.
started with. That's absolutely
And
correct.
then
Yes.
he left them, and he began his new Templar sect. The Typhonian Path is the Templar
Temple of
sect.
Set was founded by Michael Aquino. So it's you could say they're related, but it's its own offshoot. Because see,
Yes.
Michael Aquino didn't want to use the words devil or Satan like the Church of Satan did. And every time I've had Aquino on or a member of the Church of Satan, they immediately assume, oh no, satanic, it's evil. But Anton LaVey, who started the Church of Satan, wasn't a devil worshiper, and he's not advocating for devil worshiping. What he did was essentially, he was a circus guy, and so he used a name that would scare people. Meaning that if people just saw Church of Satan and inverted pentagram, they would run away. But if you actually started reading his books or their books, going back to even before Church of Satan, before Temple of Set 2, OTO and Golden Dawn, uh,
That's it.
it's
OTO, yeah.
completely different. It's more of a being open-minded.
Yes, that's right. Because our words are magic. Spellings, spells. The word spells is in the word spellings because what we speak, we are manifesting spells as we speak. And well, it's magic by influencing each other. This show manifested today because by us connecting with each other and influencing each other's minds, you know. Spellings is spells, yeah. Gospel, go spell everyone.
Yeah,
Gospel.
yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's true. They're very true.
God said, go spell everyone, spread the gospel.
And you definitely could interpret it that way.
Yeah, well, that's what they did. Yeah, well, there was only when Jesus Christ died, there was only 30 followers, and look how it's one of the fastest growing religions there is, Christianity, from 30 to the fastest growing religion.
Now, let's talk about remote viewing. I've always been fascinated with that. I've actually spoken to a few people that are teaching it, and one of them was, I want to say, Ed Dames. Ed Dames was one. The other one was the guy who runs the Academy of Remote Viewing and Remote Influencing. Unfortunately, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I've never been able to remote view unless you count dreams, because some people even say dreams are us looking into another dimension or
Yeah,
even us looking into another area or what our life would be if we did such.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, remote viewing is like me looking through your eyes and seeing exactly what you see.
Yeah, yeah. So
And you not knowing, you wouldn't know that I was doing it.
now, I've always thought that remote viewing and telepathy and all these are the truest form of communication because you could feel emotions, you could feel, our knowledge, everything once you're able to penetrate that. However, words, when you are limited to two-dimensional words, it's it could be a lie. That's one. And two, people can have a hard time expressing themselves. That's why I think a lot of relationships fail. A lot of marriages fail because of the lack of communication. Yet, if we all tapped into that ability and we were all able to go and see the other side or see the other person and fully see them into their heart, into their brain, then I think a lot more people would be closer. And let me take your thought on that actually, real quick.
Well, I reckon the previous model of Homo sapiens could remote view, and they were telepathic as well. However, the extraterrestrials decided that they didn't want that in us, and we was actually designed a species of human was designed without the pineal gland. However, the Anunnaki decided to keep it back in keep us with the pineal gland, so that happened. And but however, the government don't want us to have our pineal gland working because otherwise we will foresee events, forthcoming events. We will know the truth. That's why they put fluoride in the water, excessive amounts of fluoride. I mean, a little bit's fine, but they put excessive amounts, which becomes a poison in the end. It dampens our pineal gland, thus rendering it useless to work. We need our pineal glands to be able to remote view or use telepathy.
You know, I'm really glad you said that, and I'll tell you why. The alien implant doctor, Dr. Roger Lear, before he passed away, told me that he had a theory about the Tower of Babel. That up to that point, all of us had telepathy. All of us were able to read each other's thoughts and see into each other's souls. Something happened to where the gods, I'm not talking about the creator, but the gods, maybe the creator of us, the extraterrestrials, those who had the higher technology that are able to come and go, for whatever reason, wanted us to stop using that ability. And when the Tower of Babel incident happened and we started speaking in tongues, it wasn't that we were just speaking gibberish. Well, it became gibberish, but it was the first time we weren't able to communicate with our minds. And by that, we had to communicate basically with sounds, and since there was no written form up until that point, that it seems like a very perfectly logical explanation. Now,
Yeah.
how can we find that out? I don't know. How can we go back in time to find that out? I don't know. But the explanation that he gave for the Tower of Babel, I thought was really, really interesting. What do you say about that? Because you basically just covered it with the
Yeah, I
fluoride, at
have.
least.
Yeah, that's right. The government is plus there's toxins in our food and aluminium to give us Alzheimer's disease. Plus we've got the chemtrails as well. You've got heart controlling the weather. You've got 5G. That's a nightmare. That's bad news. That 5G. They can control our minds with 5G. They can put us to sleep, make us miserable, depressed, whatever they wish. And all this affects your pineal gland and stops you from remote viewing or using telepathy or actually communicating with spirits. It stops all of that.
You know, it's really sad that they want to limit what we do and what we say and what we think. And that probably explains, I think it really does explain why depression is such on a rise. I mean, when me and you were in elementary school, you know, kids weren't prescribed Ritalin and other crazy drugs that mess with our minds. It was literally the generation, not even after me, maybe 10 years after me. If you don't mind me asking, since we're on air, how old are you?
I'm 54.
Okay, yeah, so it was definitely post our generation. I'm 39, you're 54, and yet the children of the future right now are told or are given so many drugs that affect the developing mind that really screw them up in a way that has never been done in history.
If you went to the doctor and said, I'm hearing voices, I'm remote viewing, I'm experiencing telepathy, he would put you on medication. He would say you're suffering with acute psychosis or schizophrenia and put you on medication. The reason is it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, the pharmaceutical business, and also the fear of you discovering the truth because I mean, can you imagine remote viewing the Queen or the government? You would suddenly discover what they're really up to, the truth. So therefore that's why they poison us with fluoride and stuff.
I also heard a theory that they started to weaponize wheat in the 60s and perfected it maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago. What's your take on that?
Yeah, like even bread has got additives in it that shouldn't be there. You don't need them in there. You can make bread without a lot of the additives that they put in there. Yeah, everything we eat. When you go in the supermarket, all what you buy has got stuff in it that shouldn't be there, ingredients
Hmm.
that shouldn't be there.
That's why even soda, which I don't want to advocate anybody out there go, especially if you're living in America, probably the UK, you probably don't have glucose. You probably have, like I do, high fructose corn syrup. This is why here in America we want Mexican Coca Cola because at least it's more natural. Still, it has dozens of chemicals in there and none of them are good for you. But the point
Yeah,
being is they made it even worse here.
yeah, yeah. absolutely. And yeah, that's right. So basically, you got fresh. Well, it's illegal to collect rainwater. Don't you think that's strange? Because rainwater, in theory, hasn't got any fluoride in it, but it has because for the way the weather works, it has got fluoride in it, but it hasn't got as much as. But yeah, it's illegal to collect rainwater. That's quite astonishing in itself. Why is that? Why would that be? Why would it be illegal to collect rainwater?
In general, we have things that the children of the future, the children living now, don't have access to. Their minds are controlled by the teachers to think one way, and if they think another, then all of a sudden they're told to by the school to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. We're really warping the developing minds in general. It's almost as if we want to create the future of a deadly race. I'll give you an example. You know that new Joker movie that just came out?
Right.
You remember how when The Dark Knight came out with Heath Ledger, who sadly died,
Yes.
that there was a mass shooting in Colorado. Why would they publicly say that in the news night after night? Don't go into theaters. Don't see this movie. We might have a repeat killer. You're feeding ideas into people's minds that would have not thought of that. Fortunately,
Yes.
there wasn't, but they had to take many precautions, which I think by the media pounding us with information like that, you're going to get so many copycat crimes, which is it's bollocks to say the least.
Yes. 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 Anyway, back to my journey through life, if you wish.
Yeah, of course. That's what we're here for.
I Yeah, so there was a big break. I never experienced any paranormal phenomena. I owned two car yards. I was a car dealer. I had a nightclub. The name of the nightclub was called the Chapel, appropriately. And
Yeah.
anyway, so and there I was in business doing my thing. And then at age 34, that's when my life began to change. I became a voice hearer. I had become possessed by a telepathic mind reader. And that's when I learned that there are evil demons walking the streets now in human form, and they have been blessed. Can you imagine being blessed with a paranormal gift and using it for evil instead of good? Can you imagine that? Like, can
I
you imagine if
I
I was
can't
an evil
fathom
person?
that. My own mind and my own heart. I mean, if I have something good, I'm gonna use it for good. To have a power that other people don't have, and to use it for evil, not only is it morally wrong, but to me it's to the point where I couldn't even do it or think about it, and yet people do.
So, like I say, yeah, I was possessed by a telepathic mind reader who was evil. I'd become a voice hearer, and that's when I also encountered my guardian angel's name is Merlin. Merlin is the most famous sorcerer of all time, and that's when I first encountered Merlin. A dog was jumping up and down excitedly at a presence that was standing there, but there was no one standing there. That was Merlin. That's the first time I encountered him. Also in the chapel, I encountered blue flashing lights in the ceiling, shadows, and uh, and then nothing happened for 4 years, and then blow me down. So 8 years I was a voice hearer, experiencing the wrath of a telepathic mind reader. He left me after 8 years, this mind reader, and then 4 years later, it happened again. Another telepathic mind reader jumped into me, and it was. But whilst he was in me, that I actually saw my mother. My mother came to me, and my mother came to me and she said, "See, I told you I'd come back and haunt you." That's what my mother said to me. My late mother, who passed away, she came back into this realm and said, "See, I told you I'd come back and haunt you." I couldn't believe it.
I'm wondering if that one who was in you for 8 years may have passed away, and that's why he stopped, or realized that he wasn't going to corrupt you and get you to do the evil bidding that he may have wanted you to do, or he or she, for that matter.
It was a he, and yes, that's exactly right. It was because I was not going to perform the tasks that he wished for me to do, whatever they were. But yes, after 8 years, he realised he was wasting his time with me and moved on to some other vulnerable person.
Do you think this was another human who had those powers, or was it a
Absolutely.
non-terrestrial?
No, this was a living human being.
Wow.
Telepathic mind reader, someone, a human being blessed with a telepathic mind reading gift, and he was actually using it for evil to climb in the minds of me, of you, and then he would try, say he was in you, he'd try and influence you with negative thoughts to do bad things, or he'd make you think that members of your family were talking about you, and you would believe that they are when in fact they're not. He could do all kinds of things.
When you mentioned earlier that you are an element of the spirit of light, light is always purported to be with the positive, the good, the truth. I wouldn't want to be associated with any other element. And then Merlin, like you said, he is by far the greatest, most known sorcerer. If you just asked me what sorcerer do I think, and I had a clean slate mind, that's what I would have guessed. Merlin. And
Yes.
yet you actually that's who you were in contact with.
I have actually met Merlin. He's alive to this very day. I've actually met him, and when he saw me, he manifested before my eyes in front of me, and he was so pleased to see me. He actually embraced me. He put his arms around me and embraced me. He was made of translucent light, and he was, yeah, very pleased to see me, more pleased than I was pleased to see him, but he was thrilled to see me. And so it tells me there's something about me that I don't know or understand. There's something special about me that I'm still yearning to discover.
Now, let's talk about the influence you have on other people, because clearly 170,000 people look up to you for in those three groups to be the person who shares the words of wisdom. Sharing words of wisdom is probably the greatest gift you could give to someone, which short of love. Literally, I mean, if
Yeah.
you can't send money to everybody because money does corrupt to an extent, words of wisdom is the only way people can sort of wake up and have an open mind of what's to come and what's really around us.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I offer them guidance. I don't make their minds up for them. I offer them guidance and let them make their own minds up. And some will, some won't. Some people are awake, awake to the real world, awake to life, awake to there's a life after death, spirits exist, awake to aliens are real, extraterrestrials exist. Some people are awake, some people are sleepwalkers. There's more sleepwalkers out there than there are those who are awake.
And the sad thing is the psychiatric drugs that a lot of doctors are prescribing, not just the youth, but young adults and even adults, they are becoming, if they weren't sleepwalkers already, they damn sure are now. And that's scary.
Anyway, this brings me actually to yeah, I did see a shadow behind the door. That's where shadows hide, behind the doors. You need to, you too, Dr. J, you need to burn some incense in your home to
Hmm.
lighten the atmosphere for spirits to travel. And by burning incense, you are removing any negative energies that is lingering around in your home, and that is including spirits as well. I saw a shadow behind the door. That's what I saw them. And then, furthermore to that, I actually saw an alien grey. I saw an alien grey for 5 seconds. It was well, it was. I for some reason I just know the alien grey was a she. I know that, and was 4 foot tall. And I saw this alien for 5 seconds. The alien was looking in another direction and didn't see me looking at her because the alien didn't believe, the extraterrestrial didn't believe that I could see her standing there looking the other way. Didn't know that I could see her, but I could.
Uh,
I have extra sensual vision sometimes.
that's two things I want to ask you. First, about the incense. Is there any kinds of incense that you recommend be burnt for good
Says
purposes?
two kinds. If you want to get rid of, if you want to obliterate your home and get rid of demons, full stop, and dark entities, dragon's blood is the best. It will obliterate your home, and your home will start fresh from scratch. However, if you if you wish to commune with demons, which there are good and there's bad demons, then don't use sage, because demons don't like sage. If you want to get rid of demons, then use sage.
So sage and dragon's blood
Yeah.
are what you recommend. But sage, like you said, will
Sage is the
eliminate
best.
all the demons, including the good.
Yeah. Dragon's blood obliterates everything. Sage will just have regular spirits coming through if you use sage.
Now, when you mentioned the gray and how she didn't recognize that you were seeing her, that's a very interesting point, because the spectrum that humans can see is so small when you look at it at I don't want to say a graph, but when you look at, there's X-ray, there's all sorts of different rays that we can't see. So clearly you were able to see beyond that.
Yes, yeah, I can see spirits. I've seen many, many spirits manifest before my eyes. Some have wanted me to see them, some I've just seen them without them actually realising it. And the extraterrestrial was one of them, who didn't ever recognise that I was actually looking at her directly. She didn't recognise that at all. However, I see her for 5 seconds, then she disappeared. Maybe she might have felt my presence. She might have felt my eyes upon her after 5 seconds and disappeared. Or maybe she just disappeared anyway and didn't know I was looking at her.
You answered this, but this is Captain Johnny's question. Do positive entities leave as well, or just the negative? Which you mentioned both leave when you use sage.
Yes, no, yeah. When you use dragon's blood, all spirits will disappear because they fear dragon's blood. They don't like it. If you use sage, then all the bad spirits will disappear and you will only be left with good spirits. So go with sage. That would be my advice.
That's why sage is the prominent incense that's used. Well, say, for instance, there's a psychic guy not far from me. They're always burning sage, and now that makes sense why they would choose that incense of any. They sell a lot. I mean, I can't even count. I can't even tell you from memory how many different kinds of different incense they have for sale. But it's always sage that they're burning.
The churches burn sage as
true.
well.
That's right. That's right. Let me see here. There was something here. Oh, Captain Johnny also mentioned this. Humans see 1/10 trillion of the light spectrum, according to scientists. That's a small range. If we were all able to see all of the spectrum, I can only imagine just sitting in this room or just looking out the window, how many beings there would actually be. There clearly has to be so much more walking amongst us, and in different, I don't want to say dimensions, you could say argue dimensions, I just say different spectrums.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Spectrums is a good way of putting it. Yeah, I like that.
Now, you said back to the gray now. So, what were you doing? What was she doing?
She was standing there, slowly walking forward. She was walking towards. I was standing there on the north side, looking at her directly, and she was facing east and walking slowly towards east. So she didn't look at me at all. She didn't see me. After that happened, I moved. I got myself another chapel. I had a chapel and a chamber. A chamber is where I perform my rituals. And whilst I was performing a ritual, I was facing north, no doubt about it. I closed my eyes and I was performing a ritual. When I opened my eyes to walk away after finishing my ritual, I was facing south. So I switched from facing north to facing south without me even feeling a thing. That's amazing, that is. So you could say I teleported. I don't know what you'd call it. I was facing north, and then when I opened my eyes to walk away after finishing my ritual, I was facing south. That's never happened to me before. It only happened to me once. I had two altars, a left-hand path and a right-hand path altar, and I still have them to this day. The left-hand path is for demonic entities, and the right-hand path is a shrine to Jesus Christ himself.
That's the way I know it as too, actually. That, when people say they follow the right hand path, which is, Jesus Christ, or the left hand path, which would be like the Temple of Set, Church of Satan, and OTO.
Djinn, Deities, they would all be left-hand path.
There are two questions here for you. This is from Intern 23. Can you ask him what makes sage so special? I mean, I believe it, but why sage?
Sage's been used. Well, Jesus Christ was bought. Three kings bought him gifts, and they were bearing gifts, and one of them was bearing frankincense and myrrh, which is also as good as sage. Frankincense and myrrh was like gold, and it was actually to have frankincense and myrrh was like gold, quite a rarity. And for some reason, frankincense and myrrh and sage have the ability to lighten the atmosphere, making it easier for spirits to travel. And spirits are fond of frankincense and myrrh and sage. They are fond of it. I know of a god, I can't remember his name, who actually would breathe in sage all day long. It's such a pleasure to breathe in, such a pleasure.
It is. It is. It definitely is, and it's pleasant, and that's one key thing that it makes you. It kind of uplifts you. At least that's what it does to me.
Yeah,
My spirit.
yeah.
Here is something. Tammy George wrote this, and it's less of a question, but since it's written in caps, I'm going to read it to you. Have to have windows open when saging to get rid of spirits. What do you say about that?
I don't bother, but yes, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Very good idea indeed. Open the windows. That's a good idea. I don't, to be honest with you. I have a smudging feather which I use, and I smudge. I burn the incense stick in one hand, and I've got a smudging feather in the other, and I go around. And as I walk around smudging the atmosphere with sage or dragon's blood, I am saying words of wisdom, like I am cleansing the atmosphere, making it lighter for spirit to travel. I wish to be gone, all evil demonic entities, leave the house now. You are not welcome here. I say words of wisdom to actually, so like the spirits know what I'm looking for.
Now, let me ask you about what's your opinion on Freemasons?
I'm open-minded to the concept of all things. Freemasons run the country, along with the Illuminati. They are both different sectors, however, they both run the country. The Queen is Prince Philip is a Freemason. He is actually a Grand Knight of Freemasonry, and they rule the country. They control the world, and we are heading towards a new world order. One voice, one voice, one direction, one vision. And we don't really want the new world order, to be honest with you, because it isn't our voice, it's their voice.
Their voice. Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I was going to make arguments for it, but bigger arguments against the New World Order. Sure, we all want to be Earthlings. We all want to be one voice in that sense, but who's controlling that voice? It would be their ideas. It would remind me of George Orwell's 1984, that we essentially would be slaves to these upper echelon of beings who, I'm talking about Earthlings, upper echelon of, some people say royalty, other people, the USA presidents, would be
Yes,
controlling what we read, what we listen to, what we watch, and what we do. And that's a scary thought, because there goes our freedom.
that's right. Yes, what we get taught in school, it's all to do with Freemasonry, really. We are governed in what we are taught in school. We now, once you become awake, you realise you have to unlearn all what you have learned, because it's false. A lot of what we are taught in school is false. Maths and English is genuine, yes, but when it comes to history, our heritage, it's all false. And a lot of our history, our ancestry is hidden in the Vatican vaults in the basement. Like the rest of the Bible, I have been told there's over 100 books missing from the Bible. That's quite a lot of books. But you've got books like the Book of Enoch is missing. I would say there are a lot of books that are missing from the Bible. Yes, I would. And all this matters. It matters because it validates the Bible and gives the Bible credibility and strength. And the Bible has been translated so many times that you can't. The true message that was actually presented has changed.
There's another question here that I think it just popped up. That was 3 minutes ago. Tammy George, what does he think a ghost is?
Energy.
Energy of a departed one, like an
Yes.
echo.
When we cross over to the next life, our conscious-minded energy experiences a transition into the next life, and we are who we are now. Only we're out of body. We're our soul. We are spiritual beings sharing a human experience. We are spiritual beings sharing a human experience. When we die, our soul will leave the body and become spirit, and our spirit will still have a conscious mind, still energy. We will still be who we are today,
Here
but only
is
out of body.
another one for you. Johnny Mo, is there an incense that attracts positive entities? What about negative? I wish to communicate with them. I know you said dragon's blood attracts dragon. Did you say dragon blood attracts all of them, or just
No,
the good ones?
dragon's blood is like a bleach. It bleaches your home.
That's the
It
clearing one.
fumigates. Dragon's blood fumigates your home from all spirits. All spirits.
What do you think would attract the just the positive, and also the second part of the question is just the negative? I mean, is there one that differentiates between the two, or once you open that door, the door is open?
Sage attracts positive spirits. Sage does.
What about for the negative? That's the other part of the question. What attracts
Uh,
negative?
Ooh, there is incense you can use that's not sage, not frankincense and myrrh. There is other kinds of incense you can use that attracts demons. I'm not quite sure actually. Well, you got me on that one. Do you
That's
know?
okay. Don't worry. It's in chat.
Uh,
So if later down the line or in the weeks to come or months to come, this is always going to be permanently archived. So you could always go back and ask it. And let me tell you who it is that's
see,
asking it. It was Johnny Mo. So um,
demonic entities come to me. They just come to me without me even performing rituals. They just come to me and they talk to me using telepathy. It's like we never left each other. They just chat with me, and yeah, they just come. I haven't had to perform rituals or burn incense. In fact, a lot of my experiences with spiritual entities, I never burnt any incense to start with. Merlin taught me to use incense. Merlin did. Merlin showed me burning incense. He said, use that.
how now? What years was Merlin supposedly here as a human? I'm not talking about as an energy or as a ghost or as an angel or a wizard, but when was he walking the earth as everybody would know it? Like I'm talking about the people who
He
don't
was
have the open mind and open have that don't have the telepathy skills that are able to see, say, this door or this microphone, something physically in front of them.
Merlin existed in life form 500 AD.
1,500 years. 15, almost, yeah, 1,500 years ago. Wow. Okay,
500.
here is another one for you. Tammy George. Being said, UFOs are just the demons that they are talking about out of the Bible. That's not much of a question, but it is in caps, which means that people write things in caps, it's for me to say to the guest. Is there anything you have to say about that?
Yes, a lot of people believe that spirits are extraterrestrial beings and they are actually using spirits as avatars to communicate with us, and they are tricking us into believing that, like my mother came to me after death. They are saying some people believe that extraterrestrials are using, like, say, my mother as an avatar to present herself to me to actually trick me into believing. And that's not true at all. I don't believe it at all. And the angels as well. The angels were definitely not extraterrestrial. I've experienced angels. Archangel Gabriel I've communed with. Another archangel, I can't remember his name.
Michael?
Cherubim angel I've communed with, and a earth angel I've communed with. And not once did they give me the essence of extraterrestrial being. Not once. In fact, the angel embraced me, made a translucent light. She embraced me, and she killed a demon for me. I had a demon come from the telly. I see it happen. A demon come out of the telly and climbed into me, and he was there for the night. And when I woke up in the morning, he was there. And then the angel appeared, and she actually killed the demons for me. Now, if she was extraterrestrial, she wouldn't have embraced me, and she wouldn't have killed the demon on my behalf.
Can you describe what the demon looked like?
Yeah, it was all black, all in black. Had no face.
Ooh. Now, some people spell demons, and then there's daemons with an A-E. Yeah. What's the difference?
Daemons are good. They are good beings.
So daemons are the positive. Demons are the negative beings.
Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned the avatar example of your mother. What a perfect way to fool somebody. If someone appears as something that you know, the fear factor would drop significantly. Sure, you know that person is no longer here, but
I can explain that.
By all means.
Yes. Well, Chris, the Bible, it says in the Bible, anything, you should only commune with angels. Anything outside of the Bible is demonic and is evil, and you shouldn't commune with it at all, because it's fakery. They're evil, demonic demons. You shouldn't commune with it. Whereas angels is acceptable. Only commune with angels and nothing else. And it's anyway. And that's devil worship if you commune with anything other than angels, which is not exactly true. But the Bible said that to protect their followers, their flock. The Bible proposes this, what I just said, to protect their flock from being fooled by demonic entities, because demonic entities can fool you. Yes, they can, but not mine. Not all what I've experienced has been genuine, the real deal.
No. You said at age 34, for the next 8 years, you had that demonic telepathic being. It tried to corrupt you. And then finally that being stopped. And then you said there was another being for, I believe you said 4 years?
Then 4 years passed, and I got myself another one. And just to let you know, he's still with me right now, and he's watching us. As I sit here now, he's watching this show with us. He's in me. I can't get rid of him. If I will use magic to get rid of him. If that fails, I will use demons to get rid of him. If that fails, I will go and see a shaman.
Now, what kind of magic would you use?
Well, there's many forms of magic. Maybe I would use elemental magic. I am magical myself, actually, and I can do the most amazing of things. I'm a shadow mage as well. It just so happens, and which I was actually going to get to in reading through my life. I'm a shadow mage. I've actually seen shadows leave my body and go on missions, and they can actually get into my shadows can get into people without them knowing, and actually pick up on their faults, look through their eyes. That's where I remote view, and they can actually pick up their faults. This telepathic mind reader that's in me right now, my shadows have been in his house. I know his name, the name of his wife, the name of his kids, his grandchild. I've been in his house, in his lounge, in his bedroom suite. I've been all around, and I even got his son to actually speak to him for the first time ever. I could do the most amazing of things as a shadow mage. I didn't even know a shadow mage existed until I realised that I am one. I've been very lucky with my life, and that's probably why, because I've seen shadows leave me and go on missions. Shadow mages are quite rare, And I remember performing. I once performed 8 rituals. And two sets actually. And after the 8th ritual, I opened my eyes and I was standing there in front of me, looking at me. And I said to me, I am now becoming a god. That's what I said to myself, and I was amazed at that as well. And that was after 8 rituals. That just goes to show you that magic does work.
Now, some psychics actually call you a shaman.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah. I accept that. I accept that. Maybe I am. Maybe I am.
Yeah, the information you have definitely seems to have been of that. Not just someone of 54 years old, not just someone knowledgeable, but someone who has the ability to see almost like in a window through other people's lives. And if you're able to perform some of these rituals, then obviously that's one step. I guess you could say differentiate you from a regular Homo sapien who
Well,
doesn't have these powers or is not tapping into them.
here's a story for you. One of my shadows went on a mission and discovered a sorcerer. Now, the sorcerer controls the telepathic mind reader that's in me. The sorcerer is dead, by the way. He's the other side of life. And anyway, the sorcerer saw my shadow, and sent a henchman to follow my shadow back to me. He sent a henchman, a dark demonic entity, to follow my shadow back to me. And I remember going to the front. You ain't going to believe this. I went to the front door to open my front door, and I stopped. And I thought there's something behind me. And I turned around to have a look to see what was there. And I said to this dark demonic entity, "Who are you? What do you want?" And do you know what? He punched me in the face. And I went flying back. And I landed on the ground on my back. And I crawled backwards to get away from it. I got punched in the face in broad daylight by a spiritual entity that appeared from a portal that was in the floor outside of my home.
How long ago was this?
This was like 4 years ago.
Wow. Now, what got you to start doing your show?
Well, actually, I use it as a way to. I'm on a mission from God. I'm on a quest. I have a prophecy to fulfill, and I'm discovering what it is as the days are rolling by. And I use what I do this is actually character growth. I'm growing inside, and by performing these shows and shows with Cassidy and guiding my flock of 170,000 members, I'm actually building my own character, discovering who I am, and realizing I'm learning all the time, and I too am learning. Yes, I am learning as well. And it's not whether for people to believe or not. The option is there for them to choose. However, I am a druid, and like I can't lie. If I my goal is to ascend, and if I lie, I'm lowering my vibration to a lower frequency, and that will stop me from ascending, and plus can affect my magical powers as well, the gifts that I've been blessed with. If I lie, I can actually lose the gifts that I've been blessed with. So honesty, my words are sincere and binding. And honesty is the only way forward for me. I won't lie to anyone, and I've got no reason to anyway.
Well, that's actually a very good policy. I wish everybody was like that. I wish everybody told it like it is, no matter how scared the reaction is, even if there's disbelief. If you're honest, then you have a clean slate. And I think for someone like me personally, if I lie, it weighs on me so horribly that people would know I'm lying. And I can't. I literally can't. I mean, even when I was a child, I was the worst liar to my parents. If I got caught doing something, I sure as hell admit it, because if I lied, you don't need a lie detector test. You don't need a polygraph with me. It's pretty damn obvious if I'm telling the truth or not.
Yes, yes. And for me, I am sincere. My words are binding. I only speak words of wisdom, and I offer guidance. I'm not nasty, spiteful. There's no negativity in me at all. And regarding that portal outside my door, I actually closed the portal. I had to close the portal. The demonic entities came, other demonic entities followed. After I got punched in the face, other demonic entities followed, and they actually, there was some teenagers living opposite me, and they actually got them to try to stab me, and they ended up stabbing themselves, and two of them got stabbed. One ended up laying down dying. It's very sad.
Here's another question for you. Can you ask him if he knows who Demon T. Barry is?
I've never heard of him. No, I can't.
Okay, Tammy, if you could expand on that. I know there's a little bit of a delay, and when you do, I'll re-ask that. Now, let me see here. I had a few other things I wanted to ask you. Now, does any of your family have the same abilities that you have to be able to see in other spectrums and to be able to communicate with things that most others can't?
No, they don't actually. Oh, my brother. Oh, I was communing with King Leviathan, and my brother, who doesn't know whether there's a life after death or not, he woke up one morning and he said the first thing that came into my mind was Leviathan, King Leviathan. He said, and he gets in a muddle. He wouldn't even remember his name. So for him to say that to me was astonishing. And King Leviathan was just basically saying to me that he's in all my family as well.
Now, what else do I have for you? I'm checking the chat because there's a lot of people here chatting, which is great. Let me see if there's an expansion on the Demon T-Berry is. No. Oh, no, that's not DMT. Someone, JD has ESP says, sounds like DMT. What's your take on DMT?
Well, I believe it's the ultimate drug if you want to connect with spirits. I have never taken it myself, and I would like to be honest with you, although I don't need it. DMT, yeah, is the ultimate. Yeah, it will take you on a journey, and all I know is that if you do take DMT, that whatever you meet, if you meet some people beside the road and the wheel has come off their cart, stop and help them put the wheel back on. Some spiritual entities you'll go up to and they won't speak to you, they'll ignore you like you're not there, they'll be chatting and they just ignore you. And some if you can help people when you cross over on DMT, then do help people. It will benefit you greatly.
Now, since I know the California State Bar is obviously always paying attention every time I have to renew my moral character, which is always past, so I will admit to it the one time I did it with another lawyer that I was working with, but however it was mixed with a couple other psychedelics, so I couldn't tell which gave the effect of what. Was it that? Was it ayahuasca? Was it mushrooms? I have no idea. But I never got to see anything or anyone from another dimension or from another place. But it's definitely something, if anybody out there, I'm not going to encourage it to anybody who cannot handle it because it definitely will take you on a trip far stronger than, say, psilocybin mushrooms. Okay, here's the other thing for you here. Okay. Okay, Johnny Mo. Can one learn the abilities you have, or is it abilities from birth or destiny? Is that or destiny? I'm assuming there's a missing
Destiny,
S.
yeah. That's a good word. Hi, Johnny Mo, by the way. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Johnny. Yes, I believe it's my destiny. I was blessed with these gifts. I didn't know they existed, and they just came to me. And I just found that I could remote view. I experienced telepathy, even to this and that right now. I'm using telepathy right now, commooning with this telepathic mind reader that's in my head. He won't shut up. He just talks 24/7, and I'm commooning with him right now. And yeah, they are gifts that I was blessed with that come to me through my destiny. It's my destiny to have these gifts. You can achieve these gifts yourself if you got to let go of all the negativity. You got to drop the ego, change your diet if you can. Try and eat fresh foods. Don't drink so
Less
much water. Change
water?
your diet. Yeah, less water's full of fluoride.
Oh, because of that. Yeah, 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 I see what you're saying. I always thought if you could, well, I don't know where you're gonna find water without fluoride in it, but the more water the better
Spring
because the more it
water.
flushes through your body.
Spring water from the rivers flows from the mountains.
But the moment it gets bottled, I don't know if I could even call it spring water when it's packaged by, say, Arrowhead or something like that, because you know it's processed, and in the process they have fluoride. Maybe less so than purified, but here in America, it's one of the big things, and on top of that, they actually have scientists on the payroll who get a lot of good money to say that it's such small doses of fluoride that it's not harmful to you. I don't believe that because when you read it in the Bible and you hear about people being 800 years old, I think Noah was 800, or was it Moses? The point is we probably could live longer if we had healthier diets that weren't full of
We
fluoride.
would,
Yeah, we
we
have.
would live
I'm looking at
till
this
we
can
were.
of soda right now. There
Yeah.
are so many ingredients here that not only do not belong, but on top of that, if you can't pronounce it, then you probably shouldn't be drinking them.
I drink a lot of this soya milk. This is chocolate flavour. It's soya milk. I drink this all day long. Soya milk. It's full of goodness and it's got cocoa beans in it as well. It hasn't really been tampered with, although there is some substances in there that shouldn't be there. It's basically a winner, and that's soya milk. Chocolate flavour, soya milk. You can get different flavours, almond flavour, but that's a winner. Soya milk for me, and that way I'm not drinking a lot of water, and which is what I drink soya milk to avoid drinking water because the water is contaminated.
And you're still getting the nourishments you need. And if it's soy, then you're definitely getting the nourishments you need tenfold. Let me ask you about this. When we talked about earlier about deities, jinns, or no, I didn't ask you about this. I wanted to ask the difference between deities, jinn, gods, goddesses, but fae. I've never heard of fae. Fae.
Fae is fairies and dragons and creatures.
Oh,
Fairies and dragons.
yeah, 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 that would fit. Fairies, dragons, creatures. And I see creatures after, and then you capitalized shades because
Yes.
you wanted to make you wanted to differentiate between those and say shadow people.
Yes, shades are not shadow people. Shades are manifested, conjured and manifested to perform tasks. And some of them live forever, and some of them disperse into the atmosphere once they've completed their task. And a shade can throw you across the room, can hell furniture.
Here, this is ironic because I was going to mention this when we were off, but there is a request here to do sometime a show with you and Cassidy, which I was definitely going to offer anyway. So, yeah, I don't know if you folks listening or watching do know that me and Bradley talked, I was on their show, and since they broadcast on the different days that I do, we said, hey, we could go on each other's shows and we could spread the truth that much more further. So absolutely, you can expect Bradley to be back on, and I will absolutely invite Cassidy. And remember, folks, some of you in the chat might even recall when Cassidy has been in this chat room. Okay, let's see what else I got for you here.
Yes. Yeah, we're beginning a new season of the Bradley Powers Esoteric Show. A new season is beginning, possibly right after this show. I'm not sure. Possibly.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad taking it up on the day. Unfortunately, I had something yesterday and I have something tomorrow, but I wanted to get you in sooner than later because
Yes.
I didn't want you to think I forgot about you because you're absolutely on top of my mind. Especially, I want to thank you when you had me on your show. That was an honor to be there.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So, Anyway, I closed the portal that was open. I closed it. I performed a ceremony to close that portal that was outside my door because demons were causing teenagers to stab each other. They wanted to stab me and ended up stabbing each other. And one of them outside my front door, I opened the door and he was lying on the floor there. He'd been stabbed. And there was one that got stabbed in the garden. And these spirits were trying to get me stabbed. And they ended up stabbing each other. Because my power, I have an aura, an essence about me that actually protects me. And I mentioned the demon come through the TV, and then my angel appeared the next day. She killed the demon. She told me the telepathic mind reader in my head is a trickster. She said to pray to God. She embraced me 3 times. She was made of translucent light, and she embraced me 3 times. She was thrilled to see me. Merlin suggested that I paint a pentacle for necromancy in the floor, so I did. He showed me how to paint it. I painted a pentacle for necromancy in the floor, and as soon as I finished, the smoke alarm went off, and I couldn't shut the smoke alarm off. I had to bust it off the ceiling, and I ended up putting it in the bath. And but that pentacle for necromancy did work. And I met Gilbert. I met spiritual entities such as Gilbert, Sia, Jack, and I bought a fairy goblet, and I saw a fairy orb appear. I met King Leviathan, Dionysus, even Set. God Set himself actually made an appearance, which I was quite honoured by.
Set as in Temple of Set, the Egyptian god, right?
Yeah, yes, I was actually honoured by that.
Wow.
Totally honoured.
Nice.
Yeah. And they all had messages to share with me, words of wisdom, and which I'm honoured by. I've even had an incubus put his tongue in my ear, and I woke up thinking it was a telepathic mind reader, and I was strangling it. It was an incubus, and the incubus said to me, "Make love, not war."
You know, I noticed in your list you didn't put succubus. Can you talk about the difference between succubus and incubus?
Yes, an incubus is a male spiritual entity, sexually driven, and a succubus is a female spiritual entity that's sexually driven. They can appear to your taste. They can manifest to appear exactly as you would fancy. What would attract you to them? They could appear as that. I felt a throbbing member rubbing up against me. I've had a tongue in my ear. I've also been attacked by demons. I've had hand on my mouth like that. I've been strangled, suffocated. I've had the hands round the neck, and I've had demons trying to jump into me and steal my body from me.
To control you, literally control you, control your body, and that would be sad. There's that movie. It won. No, it didn't win Best Picture. It was nominated for Best Picture a couple of years ago. Get Out. And what this family was doing was they would take someone's body, and they would use someone who was sick and dying, essentially their brain and the spirit, to control that body so they can live longer, stronger, whatever it be. And the person whose body it was literally had to take a back seat. So they would be in what's called the sunken place. I couldn't imagine having something else control me, and yet me being aware, hearing, seeing, feeling everything that something else was doing with my body, but yet it wasn't me. That would just, I don't know. Well, I don't know if words are there to describe what I would feel like that.
A lot of demons, demonic entities, the bad ones, they want to be human again, and it is possible for them to climb into your body and push your soul out. They can push your soul out and take over your body. That is very, very possible indeed.
Ward Alien video, and let me give a shout out for Ward. By the way, he's got a great alien video which you could find on my YouTube channel a while back, and he does have something new that once I get some good editing software, I will get it back up there. He has a question for you. Is there any specific spell to get what you need?
Yeah, there are many. There are many specific spells to get what you need. Many. I can't reel off any off my top of my head because they are rituals. magical rituals by saying, if you say these words and you make these movements and you've got these ingredients with you, magic will happen. Magic will manifest into the atmosphere.
Let me keep going through here. Oh, let me just ask you this, because you live in the UK, and each time I was there, I was surprised, but nowadays in 2019 going on 2020, you really can't be surprised that pretty much everything you do outdoors is filmed. But the CCTVs you guys had there, I was blown away. I remember I was going through, it was like an outdoor, you could see like a swap meet sort of, bunch of different booths selling various items, and even the tattoo booth. And this lady who was doing tattoos, she pulled me in and she goes, "Do you realize everything you're doing is being watched? And you, being an American, are sticking out like a sore thumb." And I think that's when it really hit me that I'm like, wow, there's nothing you can do. You can't walk down any street in London. Or, I mean, maybe you could speak to outside of London. But I think it's the same, isn't it? Because the CCTVs have gone up drastically, considering how much cheaper they are to operate and to run.
Yes, we are heavily monitored, and I think we've got more CCTVs than America. All the cities.
I know they're cheap as heck. My father, who had a stroke and is paralyzed neck down, we got him a camera so we could watch him and we could communicate with him one way. The point is if that was cheap, I can't imagine what it is on a government scale. So it's only a matter of time before Hollywood or downtown LA with its new revival is going to be heavily scrutinized. I mean, can there even be that many eyeballs to watch those thousands of
Yeah.
cameras? I mean, I'm assuming there's got to be some programs to watch them, some programs to watch patterns and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. We are heavily monitored in the UK. You can't do much without being. Even I live here in an apartment on the marina, and as the minute I walk out the door, I'm being filmed. They tell me it's for my own good, security. But the thing is, you can't do anything. You can't do anything. You can't go anywhere without being recorded on television. I can't. Any guest, anybody, everybody comes in and out the apartment complex is monitored, and that's just where I live. I live on the, but I live at the gates of the city centre.
And so let's just say you wanted to go to the local store, your movements the
Oh,
moment you
absolutely.
leave is going to be
From the moment I
watched.
leave, from the moment I leave, go to the store and return, I'm filmed the whole time. The whole time.
Now, let me ask you more about your show. How long has it been running? Your Bradley's Power Esoteric show.
So that's 6 months.
Oh, so it's fairly recent. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because you've interviewed shaman, Freemasons, alien contactees, alien abductees, and more, is there any alien contactees or abductees that stick out in your mind?
Yeah. Kevin Can Man. Kevin Can Man. He does. Yeah. He actually. He went for a ride in a spaceship, and he for an hour, and he didn't enjoy the experience, to be honest with you.
Was he taken?
Yes. He
Mm.
was 1 minute. He was a Navy seaman, uh, medical corps, and he was 1 minute he was on his ship, the next minute he was in a spaceship. He was missing for an hour, and he was on a spaceship. Yeah, and he didn't enjoy the experience very much. And they was trying to shine words of wisdom upon him, but he didn't like it.
Are you versed in hypnotherapy to be able to retrieve lost memories in people?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I believe in that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Have
hypnotherapy.
Have
Yeah.
you yourself practiced it to be able to get the memories lost in someone to pull those memories out?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't practiced hypnotherapy at all. Although I do believe in it. That's also a gift.
Let me ask you about the human bodies that are run by extraterrestrial souls. How many people have you come across that are, you could say, contactees, or just say visiting, by occupying somebody and maybe spreading some truth? I know Timothy Good. You probably know Timothy Good. He's in the UK as well. He's a very, very prominent researcher. He said he was at an event, a lecture, a talk. There were several people who spoke, and there was this one person who came up and he spoke about the future of Earth and radical ideas that everybody was so entranced by. And when it was over, nobody could remember what that person said, what that person looked like, or if that person was a he or she. It's almost like an extraterrestrial came in, spread a message, and then left. Everybody forgot that message, and at some point later in time, that message will be revealed to them. I thought that was
Yeah.
such an amazing story because Timothy Good is a very, very credible researcher and author. I've interviewed him probably about 4 times over the last 7 years, and he is one of my greats as far as researchers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not too familiar with him myself. I don't actually follow researchers. A lot of my information comes from within, from the source, uh, as well as the internet as well. I can read and decipher. I'm pretty good at discovering what I'm reading is real, is binding or not. I'm pretty good at that.
You mentioned the internet. It's like it's these days the internet is actually greater than encyclopedia. Some one person who was talking about SETI said we shouldn't be sending sound waves the way SETI's been doing for 40 years or whatever, however many years it's been sending signals. If we sent in a light beam access to our internet, that is the encyclopedia to Earth, not just to humans, but to Earth. The amount of information that's embedded in the internet is so great, and it grows each day, literally each day, so vastly. I couldn't imagine that if another species was trying to figure out what we do, what we want, what we do for pleasure, what we look like, things like that. All they needed was the access to our internet. That's it. You hit
Which they,
Google and then you can go anywhere you want.
which they have. They access like Facebook. They know all about us. Everything you put on Facebook, they know. They know everything. Absolutely.
Do you have any advice on how people can maybe grow powers to be telepathic? Or is it just something that
Yeah.
you're born with?
You can change your diet, change your attitude, lose your ego, uh, only think positive thoughts, stay away from toxic people because they will pull you down.
You know, when I asked you about succubus, a good friend
Yes.
of mine would always say about this one woman who would take my time, my energy, and create sadness and all these things. He would say, she's your succubus. And that's what I always assumed it was, a female, but it was something that would just drain me of my energy, of my life force, of everything.
Yeah, no, I don't see them like that. I've encountered three incubuses, and they was only interested in sex on all three occasions, and which wasn't a problem for me. To be
Yeah.
honest with you. Uh, but well, I might have encountered a succubus. There's one that I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell the difference if it was an incubus or a succubus. I couldn't tell the difference. But yeah, I found them a joy, a pleasure. To be honest, I think it might depend on who you are. But yes, their reward is your energy. They manifest. They feed off your energy. Everything. The currency of the universe is energy, and that's what it's all about. Extraterrestrials feed off our energy, negative energy, especially negative energy is called lush, and that's what they feed off, lush. And if you're positive, a positive being, you shouldn't really attract demonic demons, although I seem to for some reason.
I have a super chat here from Justin T, who is the moderator from the Blue Crew that is always in my shows. I really have to tip my hats to him. Justin, thank you so much, and to all the Blue Crew. And much love from the Blue Crew to me, and definitely my love for the Blue Crew. I'm saying it now, and it's always going to be there. Thank you again, Justin. Okay, let me see what else I got here for you.
I once performed a sermon. I, this telepathic mind reader, he leads people along the path to suicide. And there were 15 children came to me. These were suicide children, teenagers. They were all boys, and they came to me. They were lost. They were confused. They were tortured souls, tormented souls, and lost souls. And they were afraid to head for the light. And I performed a sermon with the help of Archangel Gabriel to help me to move those 15 children towards the light, which went successfully.
Let me ask you, because this being October, Halloween coming soon here in America, I'm having a lot of guests that are involved with ghosts. What's your take on ghosts?
Yes, ghosts are residual energy. They are residual energy because they don't realise they're dead yet. They still think they're alive, and they may carry on continuing what they used to do in the past life, and they don't see that they are dead. And you may see them, but they're not aware of you. That's ghosts.
And it's ironic. Ironic is the wrong word, but when you see a being that is stuck in one, say, room or one area, but the clothing resembles that of somebody that was walking the earth, say, 1,000 years ago. It just begs the question, wow, was that person really stuck there that long? And the answer has to be yes. I mean, who goes around dressing like they're in pre-colonial times here in the U.S. or Native American times from 1,000 years ago, or in the U.K.? Who's going around dressed like they were, say, a knight? You don't really see that regularly anymore. Something
No.
must have happened that had them trapped. And you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier the vibrations,
Trauma.
right?
Trauma.
Lower vibrations. Torment? That we said? Yeah.
Trauma. A guy, a soldier, a British soldier, at the Battle of the Somme, he was shot and killed. His spirit rushed back to England to be with his beloved wife, and he found her in bed with another man. And he was traumatized, and his spiritual entity stayed. He stayed as a ghost, and he never headed for the light at all. And that's what happens. It could be a motorbike accident where you experience the accident, the crash, and then or in the Battle of the Somme is a prime example. Many of the soldiers are still over the Battle of the Somme. They're still there running around in circles, dodging bullets and all that stuff. They're still doing it to this day. And it needs a psychic medium to go over there and actually move them on, help them head towards the light. Trauma is what can form a ghost.
I feel bad for those that haven't crossed over. It feels like they're living a nightmare over and over and over again, yet it's not
No.
just a nightmare that they wake up from. They're dead and they're in that place and they don't know it. That's what I've come to realize from speaking to a lot of people who are involved in ghost hunting and even those involved in exorcisms. And I also found out that exorcism is not the only kind of demonic activity. There's actually three types. There's obsession, there's oppression, and then the worst is possession. Those three, I think, combination of those, any combination of those three, are what trap someone, and they all involve trauma, as you mentioned, and that's a very scary thought. That's why you should live a life with high integrity and increase your vibrations to be able to communicate with not just humans but other animals, mammals around this planet, and those that are not from this planet.
Yes, yeah, that's right. See, yeah, that's right. You need to set yourself positive goals, aim for them, and try and stick with them. You think when you was a kid, you had all these dreams, and then 20 or 30 years later, they're all gone. You know, you're just a zombie, a sleepwalker. You try and set yourself goals and stick with them. My goal is to be a hierophant, and that is a druid high priest. That's my goal.
That's a
I've been
good word,
told.
actually, using Hierophant. I haven't heard that. Isn't that one of the tarot cards
Yes, it is actually. Well done. Yes, it is. Number 5.
of the major arcana?
Yes, that's right. Major Arcana card number 5 is the Hierophant. Yes, that's right. I do tarot card readings. Merlin encouraged me to do the tarot reading. And Merlin also told me I'm a knight of the High Order, an order so secret it cannot be named.
With regards to ghosts, Tammy George says, I think it's someone that's not wanting to be dead. That's when it becomes a problem. What do you say about that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when you don't want to be dead, refuse to leave the earth, refuse to head for the light, and you are reliving a nightmare or reliving a past life of what you used to do. But for many people, trauma is what holds them here. They relive the same experience over and over again, which is very sad because they are conscious-minded energy, and reliving the same experience over and over again is a torment for the mind, and it happens. So death is not always tranquil for those who die.
Johnny Mo asks, Bradley, what is your favorite spell/ritual that you know how to do?
It's well, my rituals are an hour and a half long, and I performed 8 of them, and that's when I saw myself standing in front of me, looking at me, saying, "I am now becoming a god." That's what I said to myself, because from performing these an hour and a half long rituals, by saying words very very long, it is there's a lot of speaking, a lot of conjuring to spirits, and drinking red fluid representing dragon's blood. And I can actually show you my 2 altars in a moment if you wish.
Sure.
I've got some rings here actually. If you can see them, the top one is exact replica of the St. Benedict. It's called an exorcism ring, and it's exactly the same replica of the ring that St. Benedict used for the famous exorcism that he performed. And they made a film called The Exorcist from this. And that's an exorcism ring. This here is a King Solomon ring. This is exactly the same ring that King Solomon would have wore. And as you can see, it's got you can see the St. David star on there.
Yeah, I could see it. It's encased. Is that what it is? Why they're not?
Yeah. Yes. This here is a magical ring. Attached to this ring is Merlin. Although I don't need Merlin attached to a ring. It's a Bregden Anwild Gathlic spell. This is a magic ring. This holds the power, the magical power that Merlin holds. This ring holds that power. I have, this is Horus.
Horus, is that the god of day?
Yes, very well done. Yes, he is. The god of day. And Set is the night. Yes. And Set wanted to be the day and the night, so they ended up having a fight over it. This is the all-seeing eye.
Ah, yes, the Illuminati eye. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. This here is a Knights Templars ring. The top one is a Knights Templars ring. Mm-hmm. Because I am a knight. And this here, if you lift that up, you can actually see a face inside.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it looked like a shield at first until you lifted it up. Now I know it's a knight's helmet.
Yeah, because I'm a knight. And this here is the path that I follow. A pentacle. I follow this path.
Where'd you get those, if you don't mind me asking?
Off the internet, actually. And from Witches' Covens. and sorcerers and magicians. They sorcerers and wizards. They are necromancers. I haven't learnt this myself, mastered this skill myself, but they can attach magic or spiritual entities to vessels, such as those rings or anything. They can attach spirits to anything.
There is something here. It's not a question, but I'm going to read it because it is in capital letters from Tammy George. Maybe you could make sense of this. Does someone like him, comma, can cross them over? I'm assuming, do you cross ghosts over? And people that are
Yes.
stuck?
Yes, that's what I was saying. I crossed 15 children that committed suicide. I crossed them over with the help of Archangel Gabriel. I crossed them over. I worked with Archangel Gabriel before, and he actually I was having an argument with my wife, and he actually stepped in and said the word penitence, and he was telling me that my wife was trying to say that she's sorry for ill-treating me in the past. However, I performed a ritual that moved 15 children, suicidal children, teenagers, to the other side, 15 of them, all in one. I've got to do another one because I'm surrounded by some more teenage suicides, all caused by this telepathic mind reader that's in me.
Do you have an idea of why suicides are on the rise? I mean, to an unprecedented and very scary level. I know there's a much higher population than there was, say, 20 years ago. I know 20 years ago we talked about 6 billion people. Now they're talking about 7.8 billion or just 8 billion, which is a huge difference. But nonetheless, the percentage of people that actually commit suicide has gone up drastically. Part of me, I always thought it's just from the psychiatric drugs that the doctors are prescribing to the young minds. What's your take on that?
Yeah. God, do you know what? I wasn't quite listening to that bit. I was just listening. I was just being spoken to just then.
Oh, what did what were you? What was said to you?
All right. Yeah, it's all right. It's a telepathic mind reader. He's not happy with our interview, and yeah.
Because you're exposing him?
I'm exposing him, yes, and he doesn't like being talked about because otherwise I'm unveiling him, and I'm actually creating awareness to people like yourself that there are living people blessed with paranormal gifts that use them to manipulate human minds, and he doesn't like it. So sorry, what was you saying?
I was asking, why do you think I know we have a higher population, and that's a given, right?
Oh, yeah, suicides.
But why is the suicide rate, the percentage of people that actually commit suicide, or commit violent acts in general, murder, why is that on a rise? That's not something that, say,
Because
our
a lot of
parents'
people
generation didn't see.
a lot of people are discovering the truth that they've been lied to at school, lied to by the government. The government's trying to poison us, and they don't want to be here no more. They have lost faith in humanity, and they just don't want to be here. They want the aliens to come and take them away. They believe that the aliens will offer them a better life. Then anything's got to be better than here.
You know, this is actually a question about your own backyard, but we saw here in America that Boris Johnson finally reached a Brexit deal. Are people rejoicing out in the UK?
Mixed emotions. Mixed emotions. There are loads of benefits by leaving the Brexit, by doing the Brexit deal, and there's loads of benefits if we stay in Europe. So it's a mixed emotions, really.
Let me see what else
We
I
are
got
part
for
of the
you.
Commonwealth, though. We're part of the Commonwealth, so we can actually function without Europe because we got like New Zealand, Canada, Australia. It's all part of the British Commonwealth.
I know. I used to, when I was in England, I was actually a friend of mine, actually my ex-girlfriend's best friend, moved out there. And when I went there when I was in law school, we took a trip to London and Switzerland. And when we were there, I ended up at a house party in London I was the only person that was not from there. Aside from her, I don't want to say her name, she was the only one that spoke American English, so obviously I stuck out more like a sore thumb because I was visiting. And there was another lady there from Canada, and she was going around saying, "Hey, it's the same queen," and that sort of broke down the barriers and got her more accepted than, say, me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I remember you asked me a question earlier, actually, regarding what's the difference between Djinn and deities. That's right. That's the question you asked.
Yes.
The difference is deities are regal spirits, which I connect with quite often. Regal spirits like kings, ambassadors, kings, queens, ambassadors, goddesses, gods. They are deities, regal spirits. Whereas Djinn could be dragons, uh, uh, Ilfrits, Shaitans, fairies could be Djinn. Demons could be Djinn. Does
I
that help you?
No, it does. It does. I'm actually going to ask you more about the other entities you were talking about. You mentioned the deities just now, and Jinn, which can you repeat the Jinn again?
Yes. Djinn could be dragons, creatures, fairies, Ilfrits, Shaitans. Djinn covers a wide spectrum of spiritual entities, whereas deities is regal spirits, spirits with status, like the
Kings, wizards,
ambassador of
like you
hell.
said, right? Yeah, ambassadors, kings, and so forth, like that.
They are
And
deities, and they are normally worshipped as well.
see, I learned some.
Whereas you don't
Everybody learns
worship
something
the
new every
Djinn.
day.
You could use a Djinn to help you do your bidding for you, but you don't worship a Djinn. They work for you. Whereas a deity, you would worship. Some would anyway. I don't worship anybody. I'm not religious.
I When people read the book Necronomicon, or that you are a necromancer, necro, at least in the Greek, the language that when you break it down is dead, necro. What's the definition as you know it of a necromancer that you are?
Necro means black. Black,
Black, black. Okay, so not dead. Got it.
yeah, black magic. Yeah, black magic. Yeah, it's called black magic by the Bible. Yeah, necromancer is someone that has the ability to summon spiritual entities and get them to perform tasks for himself without causing any harm to himself. I have the abilities to summon and conjure the spirits, and they listen to what I have to say. I only share words of wisdom. My words are binding and sincere, and I mean what I say, and they listen. They take it on board what I wish for, and then they will go and perform the task.
Now, earlier when we talked about telepathy, can you tell us what telethought is?
Telethought is where you have thoughts. Instead of hearing voices, you have thoughts in your head. They present you with thoughts. When I saw that druid sitting on my bed, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what he looks like. And then a telethought appeared within my mind of a skull. And he was actually showing me a skull.
Uh,
Oh, see this here? I have also seen this in translucent light, and I was able to control it. Merlin helped me do this. This here was on my computer. This is a druid, and it was on my computer, and I could make it move about, do anything I wanted. It was made, and it was a druid made of translucent light. It was exactly this.
is that druid holding a crystal ball?
Yes, he is.
Where did the idea of crystal balls come from to be able to look into them and to see different times, places, situations, future, past, etc.?
Possibly the Egyptians, and possibly from the Anunnaki.
Anunnaki people, ancient astronaut theory says that the Anunnaki were here first, and then they hybridized with the primates that were on Earth, and then created the next species, and so on and so forth. And then I believe the current theory that Eric von Däniken, Giorgio Tsoukalos, and I know the show Ancient Aliens, their show essentially, because I know Giorgio Tsoukalos started that show, but he learned everything he did from Eric von Däniken, is that the progenitors could also be labeled as the Anunnaki, but they died off. What do you say about that? Or are they still alive, just not living on Earth?
Yeah, still alive, absolutely, still alive today. Set, you could say, was Anunnaki. He is a Nibiruite from the planet Nibiru. He's still alive today. There's this energy. Our energy never dies. They are still alive today, all of them.
Early on, you mentioned Hollow Earth, or beings that live underground,
Yeah.
right? Can you talk about them?
Yes, I don't see it as hollow Earth. I see it as honeycomb Earth, like a honeycomb. The Alpha Draconians live. This will shock you. The Alpha Draconians live up to 200 miles below the Earth's surface. The planet is huge, and they live 200 miles below the Earth's surface, and they are masters at building underground cities. And they stand up to like 25 foot tall, and they are the ultimate warriors. The Greys have called them the ultimate warriors. They are carnivorous, and they feed off human life. And yeah, and adrenochrome as well. They enjoy adrenochrome themselves, which is when they frighten someone to the extreme terror, and then they actually kill you, and they drink the blood from the back of your neck, and that's adrenochrome.
There was this,
which is addictive.
What was he? He was not. I think he was a microbiologist. His name is Dr. Dan Burish, and he alleges that he worked at S4, which is 15 to 17 miles south of Area 51, where Bob Lazar worked on one of the 9 craft. The one that he worked on was the sports model. But Dr. Burish said that he was helping heal a gray because it had neuropathy. And the reasoning, he said, is that something happened on Earth that caused this planet to be uninhabitable. So what did we do? Half of us moved on to the moon, Mars, and then wherever else we occupied. The other half moved underground for I don't know how many tens of thousands of years, then moved off to wherever they were ultimately ended up on Zeta Reticuli. The reason why I bring this up is because if we lived underground and we didn't have the sun and we had more technology and we had more brain power, higher IQs, what would happen? Our bodies would become, since we had no sun, would be more gray. Our pigmentation would be gone, or be so low that it would literally look like something that is unrecognizable to us. Our eyes would get bigger so we could see in the darkness. And our bodies would shrink if we have technology doing all of our work. And so what he was saying is that grays are, in fact, us from 50,000 or 54,000 years in the future, the ones that moved underground. What do you say about that?
I say I'm open-minded to the concept of all things, and I say nothing is impossible. So that is feasible. It is feasible. I won't say I believe it or disbelieve it, but it's feasible. The Alpha Draconians were here longer than mankind, living below the Earth. There was an atomic war on the planet and between the extraterrestrials and different species, and that's what caused the Earth to be uninhabitable for a few hundred years.
Are you talking about what is in the Bhagavad Gita? Because that describes essentially a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy when people look at it, and if you read it literally, it really does describe a nuclear explosion. Robert Oppenheimer, after the first test at the Trinity site in New Mexico, recited the words from the Bhagavad Gita about the power of 10,000 suns and being blinded out. I don't want to misquote it, but he did quote the Bhagavad Gita, the verse that mentioned this explosion that no one had seen prior to 1945, except in the ancient times, which clearly the people who wrote that verse and the entire book or books of the Hindu faith thousands of years ago definitely knew something, because they clearly had to have super imaginations to be able to even conceive of something like that. Yet they didn't. They wrote it as history. Eric von Däniken also told me something very interesting that always sticks out in my head. He said, back in those years, if it wasn't 3,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, say 1,000 years ago, the literacy rate was very low. And the very first people to write were aristocrats or people that were servants to the king. If they were to write fiction, then they would be beheaded. So, what's the first thing that they're going to write? They're going to write what's happening around them, or what's happening around them in words that they understand, such as chariots with gods. And that stuck with me because that makes so much more sense. If, say, 5% of the people were literate compared to now, why
Yes.
would you write fantasy as your first words or your first novel? You wouldn't. You would write what's going on or what your elders passed down to you as history, as fact.
Yes. Well, the monks actually did a lot of our writings for us in the abbotry, in the abbots, monasteries. The monks they foretold history accurately, but one has to remember, like the the hierarchy of the times. So it's to, when you say that, it's like to suit the king. It's the king's truth. You know.
Yeah,
You have
yeah, exactly. And if it wasn't their truth, they would behead you. The
Yes,
kings would
exactly.
behead you. The pharaohs would behead you if you weren't writing to their liking, like you said, the king's truth. It could be wrong, but as long as it's right according to the kings and the pharaohs,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
leaders,
yeah,
emperors.
yeah.
Uh, Let me see. What else did I miss here? Um, there's a lot of comments, which I definitely, I'm going to send you the link. You already have it. Definitely check it out. I'm trying to see if there's anybody here who has any questions or comments for you. Well, let me see what this is. This is from Johnny Moe. This is written about 9 minutes ago. So they say there is good energies and evil ones. Could one use evil energy to do good? Would it be considered a good energy at that point?
Yes, yes. One could. The You could summons and conjure an evil entity to actually perform a task for you, and they would be bound. But by the law of Moses, actually, they are bound to oblige you and fulfill your wishes and desires without detracting from what you solely wish for. Yes, it is possible. When I use demons, good demons, a lot, and they work for me. And yeah, but even dark demons can perform tasks for you. They can, but they're very hard to control. You need to be quite professional, really, to deal with dark demonic entities. They're not really a place you want to go, to be honest with you. You're better off dealing with good demons rather than bad demons. To be honest with you, why ask a bad demon to fulfill a task for you when you can ask a good demon who can do it just as good, and you will form a bond with that good demons as well. or daemon, Daemon, you would form a good bond.
Yeah. The
What
daemon,
you
the
wouldn't
good
want
one
to
that you
form a
said.
bond with a dark demonic entity. You wouldn't really want to form a bond with that.
Here's a
But
question.
yes, they can, to save themselves. They can actually, evil spirits can perform good tasks for you to save themselves and to give them some credit and merits.
That's to
Yeah, that is
save
possible.
themselves, right? That's service to self, right?
Yes, service to self.
Here's a question for you. This is from Cameron Brower. It says, ask him about the return of Nibiru.
Hi, Cameron. Yes, well, is it a myth or not? Is it true or not? Does it exist or not? Eh? Has it already been round and the government are lying to us, or is it still due to come? These are questions that there's so many different questions and answers. I believe the planet Nibiru is genuine, the real deal, and it comes around every 26,000 years. It will actually come round. So when is it due again? Is it due now? When is the 26,000 years cycle for it to come around again? When is that due?
That's a good question, and from what I've read about it, it actually has a different orbit, meaning that it's not in the same plane as, say, the other planets. Yet it's like, say, if we're horizontal, then that would be vertical. That's an extreme example, but that's just to show that it's a completely different orbit. Sure, it does orbit the sun, is what I've read about it and what I've seen about it. But yes, you're right. A 26,000 year orbit, for us to see it, is what is postulated. And obviously, if they wrote about this thousands of years ago, or tens of thousands of years, or they didn't write 10,000s of years ago, but if they were writing about it then when's it going to be due? Some people said it was going to come in 2012. That obviously didn't happen. Other people are giving more
If
credence to it that it's in soon it's going to be able to be seen through whether it be the Hubble or the Kepler telescope. Regardless, it's supposedly in our solar system.
Has it already been, but it came the other side of the sun? Has it already been? If Nibiru comes near Earth, it could be catastrophic. It could be life-threatening if Nibiru comes near Earth.
Oh yeah. The earthquakes that would come, all things, the floods, everything that would come because of the gravity that it would create would be catastrophic to all of us.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me see what else I got here for you.
Yeah,
Um,
Marduk was king of Nibiru. He took over from King Anu. Lord Marduk. I've got vessels in my on my altar connecting to King Anu, Lord Marduk, uh,
Murdoch
King of
or Marduk?
Marduk, Marduk.
See, like I said,
He
you
fought
learn a lot new
Marduk
every
fought
day.
Marduk fought Tiamat and beat her. And they say from the ribs of Tiamat, the planet Tiamat, Earth was born. From the ribs of Tiamat.
I am. Oh, I see my moderator, Justin T, has to go, so I want to thank him. Thank you, Justin, and stay cool if you can. Or no, you said it's raining in Louisiana, so be safe, Justin. I'll see you tomorrow early with Jeff Bellinger, which I'll talk about as we end. Now,
Thank you, Justin, for watching.
let me see if I missed any questions for you or comments that I'm reading. The chat has been very active, which is very good. This is very good. Let's see. Okay, no. Now, let's talk about alien abduction. Do you believe that we are being taken to create a hybrid species, or do you believe that we are taken, or are we, as we die, we go on to another planet, or we literally go on to heaven?
Well, some say that the light is a trap, and for us to be reincarnated back onto the planet Earth into a different body. Some say the light is a trap, don't head for the light. But everybody is heading for the light at the moment because they don't know. They think it's a safe haven. They think from the light it leads to heaven or even hell, depending on your life on Earth. We are measured by what we've done on Earth. That's how that works. And you got the Akashic records. That's ruled by the Mantis beings. Mantis beings control the Akashic records, and they know the past, the present, and the future. And we signed up for this life here on Earth in the Akashic Records Library. We signed the Book of Life before we came to Earth. We don't remember any of this because it's we lose it as we grow older. We just don't remember.
Some people have said that as our souls are entered into these bodies as we're born, as the umbilical cord is cut, that our memories of our souls is forgotten so we can have this life experience. Yet our souls have existed for infinite time. What do you say about that?
Yeah, our soul enters the body after 49 days. 49 days, 7 weeks. Our soul enters the womb, and that's when our soul begins to manifest with the body entwined.
This is something that's happening here in America in certain states, and I'm very saddened to know this. I don't have children, but my best friend has a daughter, and I baptized her. And, to know that this state has the ability to, I don't even know how they call abortion if the baby is already born up to 2 weeks, and then to kill it, that's murder to me. And I just don't understand how they could use the term abortion post birth. That's just a so radical idea. Why can't people or women just if they don't want to have a baby or they don't want to raise a child, give it to adoption agencies. There are so many families that need them. And I think that is the evil or the bidding of an evildoer to promote that idea.
Yeah, it is murder. The soul is in the body at that stage, and that is murder. And it's also spare parts, isn't it, really, for extraterrestrials? Spare parts. The child.
This actually makes sense. Preston Dennett, one of my favorite authors and researchers, he's written, I think, 25 or 27 books. Many books like UFOs over California, UFOs over New York, books on ghosts, things like that. And he even said that some crash and retrievals have shown to have body parts on board the craft. And it took me for a loop when he first told me that, but it now makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree with you totally. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that gray you saw for 5 seconds. Have you ever seen any other extraterrestrials?
No, I haven't, no. No, that was the only time. Spiritual entities mainly I've seen. But yeah, that was the only time. That was quite an honour for me, really. It just goes to show you how sensitive I am towards other beings.
Your pineal gland is far more active and clean and working than others, is what I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, I've encountered. I've communed with God Dionysus. Have you ever heard of Dionysus?
Yes.
Yes, he invited me to a party with him, actually. He is the god of festivals, the god of the vine. And actually, allegedly, he has led the same life as Jesus Christ as well. He was crucified. He had 3 people come to visit him during his birth. He was an immaculate conception. And he went around teaching people, just like I do, really. Go around teaching.
That's the greatest gift you can give to anybody is wisdom. Teaching people wisdom, teaching people things that they didn't know or were too scared to look into. Once you're, giving your life to teaching, I think that's the best thing you can do for humanity and for all beings, actually.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Let me see what else. If there's anything else you'd like to say, because I went.
I'd like to show you my altar, actually. If I, bear with me a minute.
Sure. Oh, this is my altar. Yeah, I see it.
This is the left-hand path.
Yes.
This is the middle. That's the middle path, and this is the right-hand path. On the right-hand path here is a shrine to Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a gold Templar's coin. Knights Templar coin.
Yes. Okay, yes.
And that's this here, this skull with a hat on. That's me, in prayer.
With your hands together, I see that. Yes.
Yes, that's the right-hand path with an angel because I've seen an angel, and a cherubim angel because I've seen a cherubim angel. These are druids congregating, and this is the right-hand path. This is a knight's helmet, and this is my chalice, what I use to drink red fluid, which is dragon's blood. Actually, I cut myself. That's congealed blood at the bottom there. Adding blood to the fluid actually makes it more binding.
Is that a snake around the chalice?
No, this is a hand.
Oh, it's a hand holding it. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, the knight's holding it with his hand. All druids are fond of skulls. This is Dionysus. All these in the background there, these rings that you see there, and these rings that you see there are all got spiritual entities attached to them. And this is God's set.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I bought this. This represents fertility. This is a dragon's skull, a dragon's head. And the reason why I bought this is because I interact with dragons quite often. This is Hermes, the brother, I believe, of Dionysus. And all those rings, like I say, have got spiritual entities attached to them. This is my Book of Shadows.
You have a really cool altar. I really like it. Aleister Crowley's Tarot. Yeah, Thoth Tarot. That's what I have. Yeah. I have the larger one and the pocket size.
Yeah. One. That's what this is. This is the large one. You can barely use them. You can barely shuffle with them. It's a large one.
I know, yeah. I'm not versed enough. I actually have to use the book to translate.
This is the I've forgotten the name of this cross now. This is
and the one
Enke.
Yeah.
Ankh cross.
Yeah.
The Ankh cross. Well done. This here is Lord Marduk from Nibiru is attached to this ring. Lord Marduk is attached to this. King Anu is attached to this ring here. King Leviathan is attached to this ring here. And this here is my wand.
With the crystal at the
tip.
end. Yeah.
This is my wand, and look, it's the what
Oh,
star
that's
is
a
that?
tetrahedron, right? At the end?
Yes. Also the Merkaba star. It's a Merkaba star, which we all have on our body, and we need to operate it using our pineal glands. If our pineal glands was working, we could use our Merkaba star to teleport. Can you see that? Merkaba
Yeah,
star.
yeah, yeah. That your lamp or
Yeah.
your light. Yeah.
And this here is a malachite stone,
What kind of stone?
and a malachite stone. And look, if you look at it, it looks like a reptilian. See the
Yeah, it
eye?
looks like two eyes and a nose.
Yeah, man. So as you can see, I am quite serious in what I do. So that's my left hand path altar, and that's my right hand path altar. And this mirror here I use for scrying. I can actually look into this mirror, and I've actually seen spiritual beings appear, like you see me now. Spiritual beings have appeared before me in this mirror. Even the telepathic mind readers, mum and dad and grandfather came through.
What do you say to those who, or if a spirit comes and you have fear, doesn't a spirit feed off of the fear and create more chaos in your life?
Yes, it does. I don't have fear.
That's why the whole
I
point
don't.
is to not have fear, right?
Yeah, I don't. I don't experience fear at all. All the spiritual entities that I communed with, I've not experienced any fear at all. Hang on. So at least, so that's basically it, really.
No. You know what? When I come to the UK next, I definitely have to come see your altar in person.
Hey,
If my camera was working, I'd show you mine, but it is nowhere near as full as yours and as balanced as yours.
yeah.
I do have, right hand and I do have my left hand. I don't have a middle path, but I could count on one hand, or no, 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 seven
Well,
fingers all the idols that are belonging on both the left and the right hand path. So, wow, you definitely, you should definitely give courses and show people that
yeah.
because some of these stores out here, Psychic Eye and things like that, do not even have the gravity and the diversity that you have, which I think is fantastic.
Yes, yes. I'm very passionate in what I do. I'm pretty good at what I do as well. Like I'm possessed at this moment by a telepathic mind reader, and like it's something that I can handle. I don't experience fear. I've been attacked by demons many times, and I haven't experienced fear. I was trying to make it to that door once, and a spirit, a demonic entity, jumped on my back and tried to crush the life out of me. And like I just took it. I rode it. I rode it out. Because I won't give them the benefit of fear, because fear means that they're winning, and I won't allow that.
Here's two questions for you. This is from Lasha Senyak. What kind of prayers does he do at those altars?
Well, the angel that manifested before my eyes, suggested that I pray regular, and I have actually let myself down because I don't pray regular, but I do perform rituals, magical rituals, summoning and conjuring to spiritual entities.
I'm The other question from last show: why the mirror at an altar?
The mirror is important. The mirror is a portal. Spirits can come to you through the mirror. That's why it's best to go to a mirror and do a cross on a mirror. You can do it in oil, sage oil, frankincense and myrrh oil. Just form a cross on the mirror. All your mirrors of your house. That stops spirits coming through because all kinds of spirits can come through. Mirrors are portals to the other side. There are entities the other side of that mirror looking and watching us, watching me.
This is from Tammy George. How long, or ask how long he's had all that. I'm assuming it's collected over time.
Yeah, probably. Well, actually, you'd be amazed. 8 years, 6 years.
I believe we are caught up with the questions. Okay, now, let me see if I have anything else in your bio that I wanted to ask you. I believe we've covered it all. Now, let me ask you, what else do you want to tell the audience that we haven't touched on today?
Well, I think we've covered everything, to be honest with you. Always try and be sincere, be passionate, learn to love yourself, love and respect yourself, and generate that love and respect outwards. Yeah, care about yourself. Love. It's all about the love. The currency of the cosmos is energy. It's all about the love.
Well said. Hang by for a moment so I could end this stream so I could thank you off air real quick. Everybody,
Right.
please do check out Bradley Powers' show, and the days are Sunday and Monday. The show is called, hold on, I wrote it here. It is, plug it in one more time, and the time?
Yeah. Bradley Powers Esoteric Show. I have a page on Facebook called the Bradley Powers Esoteric Show. Subscribe to that show and subscribe to that page, and all the shows will be streamed through there.
And with that being said, let me thank you and everybody in the chat who has participated and even just commented. I want to thank you all. Remember, folks, tomorrow is Jeff Bellinger. He is the star of Ghost Adventures. The time is not the normal time, which was normal time is 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It has to be at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, so it's going to be 4.5 hours earlier. But it is Jeff Bellinger, and we had to bend the time to make way for him, but we can't turn him down. So please tune in for that. I've only interviewed him once before. You could also hear that also as well on YouTube. And this time I will be broadcasting it on YouTube as opposed to where I was last year. So with that being said, folks, this is Dr. J along with Bradley Powers, and we are officially